Your blood pressure isn't just about salt. That's the part of the conversation most people never get past. Avoid the salt shaker, watch the sodium, read the labels. And yes, sodium matters. But the full picture is much broader than that, and much more actionable. Because high blood pressure is built meal after meal, choice after choice, over months and years. And it can be quietly, consistently brought back down the same way. Meal after meal, choice after choice, starting with what's on your plate today. High blood pressure doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with pain or drama or a moment that forces your attention. It builds in the background, in the walls of your arteries, in the resistance your heart has to work against every single beat, in the slow accumulation of damage that happens while you feel perfectly fine. But here's what that same quietness means in the other direction. The right foods, eaten consistently, can begin to bring it back down without fanfare and without drama either. No single meal reverses hypertension, but the right pattern of eating, sustained over weeks and months, produces real and measurable changes in blood pressure that show up on the monitor and are felt throughout the body. This is what that pattern actually looks like. The first meal is breakfast, and it sets the tone for everything that follows. Oatmeal with banana and a small handful of nuts is not a glamorous combination, but it is one of the most cardiovascular protective breakfasts available to anyone managing blood pressure. Oats contain beta-glucan, a soluble fiber that reduces LDL cholesterol, improves arterial flexibility, and has been shown in multiple clinical studies to produce modest but real reductions in blood pressure with consistent consumption. The banana brings potassium, one of the most important minerals in blood pressure regulation, because potassium and sodium work in direct opposition inside the body. When potassium intake goes up, the kidneys excrete more sodium, which reduces fluid volume in the bloodstream and eases pressure off arterial walls. Most people trying to manage blood pressure focus entirely on reducing sodium without paying equal attention to increasing potassium. And the potassium side of that equation is just as important. The nuts, walnuts, almonds, a small mixed handful add magnesium, healthy unsaturated fats, and additional fiber that keeps blood sugar stable through the morning and reduces the kind of inflammatory signaling that contributes to arterial stiffness over time. Soft and simple. And your heart finally gets a morning that isn't working against it. The second meal centers on grilled fish with steamed vegetables, and the power here is concentrated in the omega-3 fatty acids that cold water fish like mackerel, salmon, sardines, and herring deliver in amounts no other common food source matches. Omega-3s reduce systemic inflammation, the chronic, low-grade inflammatory state that damages arterial walls, promotes plaque formation, and drives blood pressure upward over time. They also reduce triglycerides, improve the flexibility of red blood cells, and have a mild direct effect on blood pressure itself through their influence on the compounds that regulate vessel tone. The vegetables alongside, whatever is seasonal, whatever you enjoy, steamed simply without added salt, bring potassium, magnesium, and antioxidants that collectively protect the endothelium, the delicate inner lining of blood vessels that regulates how those vessels respond to pressure. The preparation matters here. Grilled or baked fish with herbs and lemon, not battered and fried. Steamed or lightly sautéed vegetables with olive oil, not drowned in butter and salt. Clean food, clean blood flow. The simplicity of the preparation is part of what makes it work. The third meal, beans, brown rice, and spinach, maybe the most underestimated combination on this entire list. Dismissed precisely because it sounds plain and because nothing about it feels like medicine. But beans are among the most nutrient-dense foods available for cardiovascular health. High in soluble fiber that lowers cholesterol and stabilizes blood sugar, rich in potassium and magnesium. Substantial enough in protein to keep hunger satisfied without the inflammatory burden that red meat carries at higher consumption levels. Brown rice provides complex carbohydrates that release energy gradually rather than spiking blood sugar, and it brings magnesium and additional fiber to a meal that's already stacking these nutrients impressively. Spinach contributes nitrates, compounds the body converts to nitric oxide, which directly relaxes and widens blood vessels, reducing the resistance the heart has to pump against. Nitric oxide is essentially the body's own built-in blood pressure medication, produced naturally from the dietary nitrates found in leafy greens, and spinach is one of the richest sources available. Humble food, genuinely powerful results. The gap between how unassuming this meal looks and what it's actually doing inside your cardiovascular system is significant. The fourth meal is vegetable soup, low sodium, made at home or chosen carefully, packed with whatever vegetables are available and seasoned with herbs and spices rather than salt. The benefits here are multiple and work together. Soup is hydrating in a way that solid food isn't, and adequate hydration directly supports kidney function and blood pressure regulation. The broth itself, when made without excessive sodium, helps the body maintain fluid balance. The vegetables, whatever combination you use, whether carrots, celery, onions, tomatoes, zucchini, sweet potato, spinach, collectively deliver potassium, magnesium, vitamin C, and antioxidants in a form that's easy to digest, easy on the stomach, and easy to prepare in large quantities that last several days. For seniors managing blood pressure, the digestibility of soup is an underrated benefit. Nutrients from cooked vegetables in a broth are absorbed efficiently, and the warmth and ease of a soup-based meal makes it accessible on days when cooking something elaborate isn't realistic. Warm and gentle, healing from the inside in a way that feels like comfort and functions like medicine. The fifth meal combines sweet potato, avocado, and a lean protein, chicken, turkey, fish, eggs, or legumes. And this plate is essentially a deliberate assembly of blood pressure-friendly nutrients built around three distinct mechanisms. Sweet potato brings potassium in significant amounts. A medium sweet potato contains more potassium than a banana, along with fiber, vitamin A, and vitamin C. Avocado contributes monounsaturated fats of the same family found in olive oil, which reduce LDL cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and support the health of arterial walls. It also brings more potassium, more fiber, and magnesium, making it one of the most nutrient-dense single foods available for cardiovascular health despite its caloric density. The lean protein rounds a meal out with the amino acids needed for tissue repair, muscle maintenance, and production of the enzymes and hormones that regulate virtually every system in the body, without the saturated fat load that makes red meat a net negative in high quantities for cardiovascular health. Balance on the plate, balance in the pressure. The meal works because each component is doing something different, and all three things matter. The sixth is the simplest and requires the least preparation. A fruit bowl built around watermelon, berries, and oranges. Watermelon contains citrulline, an amino acid the body converts to arginine, which in turn is used to produce nitric oxide, that same vessel-relaxing compound that spinach delivers through dietary nitrates. Studies have found that watermelon extract supplementation produces measurable reductions in blood pressure, and while eating watermelon in reasonable portions isn't supplementation, the mechanism is real, and the fruit brings significant hydration alongside it. Berries, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries are among the highest antioxidant foods available, with flavonoids that have been consistently linked to improved arterial flexibility and reduced blood pressure in research populations. Oranges deliver vitamin C, folate, and potassium in a package that also happens to be genuinely enjoyable. The natural sugar in whole fruit, surrounded by fiber, doesn't produce the blood glucose spike that juice or processed sweets generate. Sweet without the consequences. For blood sugar, for blood pressure, and for the blood vessels that need protection from both. The seventh meal is built around garlic and tomatoes, a base that appears across cuisines worldwide, in stews, sauces, soups, and braises, carrying two of the most evidence-backed cardiovascular ingredients available in any kitchen. Garlic's active compound allicin has demonstrated blood pressure-lowering effects in clinical studies, with some research suggesting its impact is comparable to a low dose of antihypertensive medication in people with mild hypertension. It reduces arterial stiffness, lowers LDL cholesterol, and reduces the platelet aggregation that contributes to clot formation. Tomatoes bring lycopene, more bioavailable when cooked than raw, which reduces LDL oxidation, lowers inflammation in arterial walls, and has been associated with meaningfully reduced cardiovascular risk in populations that consume it regularly. Together, as the flavor base a home-cooked stew or sauce eaten over whole grains or with vegetables, they create a meal that tastes like culture and tradition and effort and care, and simultaneously functions as one of the most effective dietary interventions for cardiovascular health available anywhere. Flavor that fights for you, in every spoonful. Now the reality check, because it needs to be said directly. These meals will not work if they exist as occasional islands in a diet otherwise built on processed food, excessive sodium, and inconsistency. One bowl of oatmeal followed by 3 days of instant noodles, and takeout produces nothing. The mechanism through which dietary changes lower blood pressure is cumulative and pattern dependent. It requires sustained shift in what the body receives regularly over weeks and months before the physiology changes measurably. You cannot eat one good meal and expect a miracle, but you can eat mostly good meals consistently over 3 months and watch a number on a blood pressure monitor begin to move in the right direction. That's not a miracle. That's biology responding to the inputs you're giving it. And the only way to get that response is consistency. Even imperfect consistency, even gradual consistency built one meal at a time. Your blood pressure is listening to every bite you take. Not metaphorically, literally. Every high-sodium meal prompts fluid retention and pressure increase. Every potassium-rich meal helps the kidneys excrete sodium and eases pressure off the arterial walls. Every omega-3 containing fish dinner reduces the inflammation that stiffens vessels. Every bowl of oatmeal contributes a small, real reduction in the cholesterol loading arterial walls. These effects are not dramatic on a meal-by-meal basis. Over months and years, they are transformative. Feed your body the right inputs consistently enough, and it will fight for you in return. Not because nutrition is magic, but because the body is genuinely, reliably responsive to what it receives. Start with one meal today. Not a diet overhaul. Not a pantry clear out. One meal, chosen from this list, that replaces something that was working against your blood pressure with something that works for it. Then another tomorrow. Then another. Small changes, repeated, compounded over time into powerful results that show up where it matters most. In your numbers, in your energy, in the years of healthy function you get to keep. Subscribe for more practical, honest nutrition guidance built specifically for heart health and healthy aging. Share this with someone whose blood pressure could use this kind of help. And like the video if it gave you a place to start today.